What's going on, guys? With the Stand By Me event shop opening up on the 10th, we will all have a chance to pick one of the 6 4-star characters from Liyue for free. I've been getting some questions about these characters and wanted to make a video sharing my thoughts. I want to talk about how I prioritize leveling up characters with the scarce resources in the game, as well as give my insights on the characters that are available, including their best role, what constellations are important for getting the most out of the character, and what kind of teams they fit best into. If you're free to play and there's just a character that you really like, or maybe one that you don't have and have been wanting, you should absolutely pick that character. But if you're looking to get a constellation on one of these characters and are trying to figure out which is best, or which character may be the best long-term investment, hopefully this can help you out. For reference, I own and have at least tested all of these characters. I have a level 80 Ninguang and Beidou and run Xingqiu in one of my Spiral Abyss teams. All these characters can be really great in different team comps, and I don't really think you can go wrong. But those 3 are personally my top choices from the group. Before starting, I just want to say that these are my opinions, and I'm a very strong believer in playing characters that you like and have the most fun with. The goal is just to provide my thoughts on the value of these characters and their various constellations. My top pick for a support is Xingqiu. Xingqiu fits in almost all team comps. His kit is extremely well rounded by reducing damage, providing some healing, and dealing significant hydro damage, especially with constellations. He can also be an extremely low investment character for use in a freeze comp or vaporize comp as the aura element. His hydro application can keep up with the pyro application time of characters such as Klee and Diluc, where no other hydro support can. My top pick for a DPS is Ninguang. Ninguang does a lot of damage even at Constellation 0. At this point in the game, I think it is likely that you have enough main DPS units, but if not, she is my choice and her constellations can make her even stronger. We'll talk about these shortly. Okay, let's talk about all these characters and their constellations a little bit further. The only character I'd consider passing on would be Xiangling, unless she is your main DPS or you're specifically looking for constellations, because she has appeared in 2 banners and the shop and is a free character from completing Spiral Abyss. That being said, she is a really great main DPS with the Crescent Pike, and one of, if not the best pyro supports in the game, because she does a ton of damage without being on the field with her Elemental Burst Pyronado. As far as constellations go, they're mixed and unlocking her potential as a main DPS and support, however they are all good. When we talk about character constellations, we'll neglect C3 and C5 as these are just an upgrade to their skill and burst. In my opinion, her best constellation is C4, which increases her burst duration by 40%. This not only lets her do a ton more damage on or off the field, but also greatly improves her support potential for a cryo or hydro main DPS. Her other constellations help, but aren't necessary. C1 and C6 are both nice, especially as a support, as they will help her and your team do increased pyro damage through reducing pyro resistance and increasing pyro damage. I would only pull Xiangling if you use her, and it will get her to C4. There'll be other chances to get this character in the future. Xinyan's best roles are support or sub DPS with her ability to provide shields to your team, deal pretty significant pyro burst damage, and cleanse, which is becoming more and more valuable. To be honest, I have not put resources into Xinyan as I only have her at C0 and don't have much of a use for her in my party. She is a character who scales extremely well with constellations, much like Noelle. At C0, she provides a shield as well as burst damage to your team. This utility is greatly increased at C2, which gives her a 100% crit rate on physical damage and provides an extra shield with her burst. At C4, she will help your physical carry main DPS deal a lot more damage, and at C6, she can be a main DPS herself with a percentage of her defense being put into charge attack damage. If you're using her as a support, go for C2 at minimum, and C4 if your main DPS is a physical damage dealer. And if you're planning to use her as a main DPS, you should prioritize getting C6. Beidou was my main DPS for a long time. Her character design is amazing and she's super fun to play. She kind of fills a weird role though in my opinion, and is probably best used as a support. Her skill can do huge damage if you play her correctly, and her burst can be deadly when paired with a hydro support or DPS. Almost all of her constellations make her burst better, so if you use her mostly just for her counter, you really don't need any constellations. If you love Beidou and want to max her, it is a good goal, but most of her constellations in between aren't much of a power spike. C1 gives her a shield when her burst is up, which is okay but not needed. C2 allows her burst to jump to additional targets, which is very strong as it enables AoE damage. This would be where I'd try to get Beidou to be a well-rounded support. C4 gives her normal attacks electro damage. This is great for a main DPS as you can proc elemental reactions with every normal attack, but doesn't do much damage. C6 reduces enemies' electro resistance when her burst is up. This is the biggest damage improvement in her kit, but is not necessary for her to be a valuable support or DPS. So I knew the second this was announced, I'd be getting Ninguang. Currently I'm at C1, and I think her first big power spike is at C2. This gives her a second Jade Screen when her Jade Screen is shattered, and Jade Screen does a ton of damage. Honestly, every single constellation makes her better, and at C6 she does more damage than a lot of 5 stars. With the Geo buffs that were just released, Ninguang is without a doubt one of the best DPS units in the game. If you're new to the game or haven't gotten lucky with DPS units, she can be a very solid choice. But if you have 2 or more main DPS units leveled, your resources may be better spent on those units and their supports. As a content creator, I want to have a variety of characters leveled for guides and showcases, which is why I'll be going for Ninguang. As a main DPS, C1 is very valuable, allowing her normal attacks to deal AoE damage. If you're planning to use her as a main, I'd plan to get her to at least C1. As a burst support or main DPS, C2 is her most valuable constellation as you essentially get a second charge in your elemental skill. Because she can shatter Jade Screen with her burst, and her burst does additional damage when a Jade Screen is nearby, you're doing double damage with her skill and more damage with her burst. Her C4 can help her or other elemental damage dealers on your team do more damage by decreasing elemental resistance, which is okay, and her C6 will give her 7 Star Jades when casting her burst, making her next charge shot very deadly. Ninguang really is a beast with constellations. Xingqiu is probably the best support and possibly best character on this list, and he deals so much more damage with constellations. If you don't have Xingqiu, you should seriously consider getting him, and if you use him, you should seriously consider getting constellations. Literally every single one is good, and all the way to C6, he just keeps getting better. But if you get him just to C2, he'll deal significantly more damage. Because of this, I would aim to get him to at least this constellation. Even at C0, with a Sacrificial Greatsword, he is extremely useful in almost all elemental team comps, allowing for consistent vaporize reactions, the ability to be a perma-free support, and the opportunity to continuously apply Electrocharged. C1 gives him an extra rain sword, which helps his support abilities through increased damage reduction. Now C2 extends his ult duration by 3 seconds, making it 18 seconds on a 20-second cooldown. This means that it can, in theory, have 90% uptime. It also reduces Hydro Res of enemies by 15% and will deal more damage. At C6, his burst damage is double that at C0, and he gets energy when his rain swords hit enemies. Xingqiu's biggest shortcoming is his long elemental skill cooldown, which limits his energy recharge significantly, and this constellation can allow you to not need to run the Sacrificial Sword. Xingqiu's burst damage is double the burst damage of Klee at C0 and 4 times Klee's burst damage at C6, so even if you're past C2, he's worth using your free character Wish on. Chongyun is a solid cryo support, but to be honest, he's the most underwhelming in this list to me. Early game, he was a good cryo support unit, and we're still lacking a lot of cryo units in the game, so if you don't have another good cryo support, he can be a good choice. He does not fit into every team comp though, because his elemental skill will convert many characters' normal attacks to cryo, which typically decreases their damage output. However, he is very strong with Diluc, as Diluc's pyro application is not overridden, and this allows Diluc to continuously proc the melt reaction. Now I'd say that all of Chongyun's constellations are good, but none of them are essential to him in a support role. In my opinion, Chongyun's big power spikes are at C2 and C6. At C2, Chongyun reduces the elemental skill and burst cooldown of party members in his elemental skill AoE by 15%. This can in theory be useful for helping your whole party spam more skills, but 15% isn't a huge reduction. At C6, Chongyun gets a 15% damage bonus, plus an extra blade on his ult for enemies with HP below his, and he can do significant burst damage. C1 and C4 are decent, but I would not prioritize getting these specifically. That's all I got for you guys today. If you guys found this video helpful, please consider subscribing down below. I put out a Genshin Impact video just like this one every single week. I'll see you guys for the next video. Peace.